Alright, what's happening? Brenton Plays Magic is the name of my channel, and my name is Brenton. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe to the videos, subscribe to the channel rather, and like the videos if you dig the content. So if you're starting to scan your eyes over the cards on the screen, you'll notice that we have changed decks yet again. And that's kind of the point of the channel from the beginning when I started to think about doing YouTube videos was to, over this course of however long I decide to do this and post these, is to um, get into new decks, post some videos, run them through a league or two, and eventually it's just me, and always has been with Magic. I get bored with decks after a month or two. We started out with Lantern Control, extremely difficult deck to pilot. If you want a deck that you can go the distance with, and you have the money to invest in one cool modern deck, sure, go for Lantern Control. You're gonna have a hard time finding people that want to play against you. The matches go long. It's hard to play in the online format. It's even more challenging in the paper world because people will just get salty and want to drag the matches out. I hear that from people all the time. But all those things considered, still cool deck. And if you were to build Lantern Control, you can make the obvious transition into Affinity, which is what we did with the last deck we played, online that is. Because if you already own the Opals, you're halfway there to Affinity. Affinity had some really fun times playing that deck. I played it in the past. It's just a strong modern deck. At any one given time, it's one of Modern's strongest decks. The last league, I've got one league that I'm finishing up here. Just did a mediocre 3-2 with it. The last time I played a league that I did not record with the deck, it was just miserable. I was like raging at the end of it. It was just the worst luck. I mean, just Stony Silences all over the place, lots of artifact hate. So I'm like, okay, kind of starting to get bored with it anyway. So talked to a guy that I was playing against in some free matches, just some fun matches, and he was playing Green Red Ponza. Kind of started chatting. He's a nice fella. He said, "Hey, get on the Facebook group. The guys who originated the deck are on there from time to time, and it's a fairly active little group." And after kind of exploring it and watching a couple of videos online, I decided, hey man, this deck looks like a lot of fun. It's a mid-rangey deck. It's not super grindy. It definitely excels in the late game against a lot of decks. So we built it. I played a lot of fun matches. This is the first league that we're about to start, and I'll start that in a separate video. So that's kind of an update to the channel. So let's talk about Green Red Ponza. If you're unfamiliar with the deck, I'm sure you've probably heard of it if you're an MTG player, if you know much about Modern. What we're basically trying to do is very simply ramp with the use of Utopia Sprawl, Arbor Elf, and Birds of Paradise so that we can ideally hit a turn to Blood Moon or Stone Rain. Now, what I've realized after a couple dozen just fun matches is that the games where we are on the play and we can turn to either Stone Rain or Blood Moon, I don't have stats for it, but it feels like our chances of winning those games are very high, very high. Where I've struggled are the matches where we're not on the play and we can't execute one of those two things in a timely manner. Because once you've Stone Rained, if you're on the play, they play a land, and then you come back and blow that land up, it's very hard for them to catch up, especially if they kept a one lander. Now, the matches that I've kind of discovered so far that are kind of hit or miss are the decks that run one color, monocolored decks that play a lot of basic lands. That kind of makes our Blood Moon ineffective, obviously. So we'll usually, on those against those decks, we'll just take the Blood Moons all the way out and bring in. A lot of times those are creature-based decks, so we can bring in like Anger of the Gods and stuff like that. Kitchen Finks as well. And so far, let's see. Affinity has kind of been a tough match. We do have some artifact hate. Abrade has been a really cool card because it does double duty. Ancient Grudge, of course. Anger of the Gods will work in a lot of cases too. And then we have one of the super, and this works against lots of decks that want to run 1 and 2 CMC spells, such as Affinity, or especially the combo decks. The big standout card in the board is Trinisphere. If I had the space to put Trinisphere in the main, I would. If we ran 63 or 64 card decks, man, Trinisphere just does such work. If you've never seen the card before, it reads, as long as Trinisphere is untapped, each spell that would cost less than 3 mana to cast costs 3 mana to cast instead. So imagine that when you drop that turn 2, which we're relatively consistent at being able to do through Arbor Elf, Birds, and Sprawl. Your Storm player, you know, they're trying to go off with a series of spells that cost 1 or 2 typically. They're just toast. Affinity, if you are on the play, it's kind of hit or miss. It just depends on if they can dump their hand fast enough. It kind of helps, but I think Affinity is a tough match. Any of the combo decks, a lot of the decks that will play really cheap dudes, it works just amazingly well with. And then you combine that with Blood Moon, and you almost have like a soft lock. It just makes it extremely difficult for some of these decks that run a lot of non-basics to be able to perform. What are some of the other matches? We do great things against Tron. I mean, Tron. I wouldn't say that Tron can't beat this deck, but it has a very difficult time to do so. Eldrazi Tron would be a lot better place, but traditional Tron, oh boy, we can just shut them down. Let's see, Titan Shift. We can beat Titan Shift because we have the main board ability to shut down Valakut with Blood Moon, or just blow it up with Stone Rains and Acid Mosses. Counter's Company has been kind of tough because I don't know, the deck's just stupid. It can go off on turn 3, and you know, they play a lot of mana dorks that make our land disruption less good. So that's something to keep in mind. If your meta is heavy with like elves and stuff like that, you know, if you go to F&M and there's a couple dozen guys, a dozen guys, and one elf player, play this. That elf player is not gonna, you're gonna beat him sometimes, but you got a bunch of elves and Affinity. Maybe this isn't the best deck to play, but we also struggle against Merfolk. I've noticed. I've played Merfolk a couple of times. Spreading Seas just really sucks because, and I guess it's just a ruling. It doesn't seem like it would do that given the cards, but okay, say one of our plays is to go like either turn 1 Arbor Elf, and then hopefully play another forest turn 2, and then play Utopia Sprawl on the first forest, and then it gives us access to 4 mana. Well, if we do that, or even turn 1 Utopia Sprawl or forest if we didn't have an elf, it says Enchant Forest, right? And you get to choose the mana that it produces that's extra on top of the green from the forest. Well, they play their Spreading Seas on the same forest, and it knocks off our Utopia Sprawl. I wasn't aware of that until I started playing those matches. I guess it's, I don't know, is it a rule that an enchant land can... oh, I just figured it out. Because Utopia Sprawl says Enchant Forest. Look at that. I knew there's a reason for it. So, yeah, they Spreading Seas your Enchanted Forest, and Utopia Sprawl falls off. So you not only don't have the ramp, now you have an island. And that really sucks. It makes it hard. They've got their island walk with all their dudes, and they can usually spit out 3, 4, 5 dudes over the course of 3 or 4 turns. And with their access to like 8 lords or more lords with Merfolk, yeah, they just get in for a lot. So Merfolk's not the most promising matchup either. So, but we do excellent things against combo in a lot of matches. We can beat Death Shadow. That's another popular deck that Trinisphere and Blood Moon just straight shut down. Mid-range decks we do really, really well against because, again, Blood Moon, a lot of your mid-range decks are wanting to play several colors. Control decks want to play several colors. The main thing always is to get out in front. I seem to do so much better in matches where we're on the play, where we can get that turn 2 Blood Moon or Stone Rain. And then we're going to follow up. We've got like an engine with a Tireless Tracker and Cursor Crufix that helps us make sure we get our land drops. Then we're spitting out clues like a madman, cracking them, drawing more cards, things like that. Primal Command does a lot of cool stuff. It's kind of iffy, like, you know, when you first start looking at it, like when to use it, but, you know, gaining 7 life is never something to slouch at. We can bounce a land. That kind of like steals a turn, especially if we have Blood Moon out. Kind of hates on the graveyard, by shuffling it in. If you're playing against like Snapcaster deck or something like that. And you can search up a Inferno Titan, which is really cool, right? And that's our big finisher, Inferno Titan. It's got Enter the Battlefield Arc Lightning, which is just really clutch in a lot of scenarios. Huntmaster of the Fells is just a lot of value. Chandra does really cool stuff too. It's very rare that I play Chandra and it just sits there. I mean, ideally we want some dudes out in front of her to protect her, but sometimes you just play her and then you just use her -3 and immediately kill their big threat. Bonfire of the Damned is one I'm kind of iffy with. That's kind of like, this deck has a lot of flex slots really, but I'm running Bonfires, 2 of those, rather than 2 Pia and Kieran and the Lars. Pia and Kieran interact well with Tireless Tracker in the late game, because as you're spitting out clues, you can stack them to Pia and Kieran and burn your opponent or their dudes, which is cool, but it just feels like I would rather have the ability to wipe my opponent's board and deal them some damage in a lot of cases, rather than try to do that. It's just, Modern's such a fast format. But if you've listened to me this far, maybe you're starting to get an idea of what the deck wants. And to surmise it again, we want to ramp into a turn 2 Blood Moon or Stone Rain, and then play overpowered, big, cool cards that, as most of the guys who know this deck will openly state, these cards are, they don't find homes in a lot of other decks. But, you know, like Storm Breath Dragon, big, nasty beater that, you know, you don't see played in just about any other deck. Same thing with Inferno Titan. Just awesome. A lot of times when Inferno Titan comes down, it just wins. So that's what we're trying to do. Try to limit their resources, and then we come back with big, powerful threats. Okay, thanks for watching, guys. We are about to start recording the first of our league matches, which will slowly start to trickle in. I've got one more Affinity match because I've been slacking on to upload tonight to finish that video series up with. But keep your fingers crossed for us. We'll see how we do. All right. Thanks, guys.